you pin that pregnancy on somebody?
Yeah.
Who did you say was the responsible for this?
No, I just went to their home. This girl used to be my friend. My elder sister was sick and she would puke and I would be asked to wash it. And I'm doing this with bare hands.
Hello and welcome to yet another episode of Tuko Talks. My name is Yvonne Kawira. Today I have the pleasure of hosting a very beautiful and humble girl. Her story is very touching. She has gone through so much rejection growing up, knowing that these people are supposed to protect her, but they chose not to. As a young girl, that damages you. And so she's here with us to share that story with us, and so that we can see where we can come in and help her. Thank you so much for coming to our show.
Thank you so much.
Tessy Kawira.
Yeah.
Hebu tuambie unatoka wapi and how was life growing up? How did you end up not being raised by your parents? Ukajikuta kwa hii family. Let's start from the beginning.
Okay. I was born in Meru.
Okay.
I think 1999. I'm not sure. By my mom, by a teen mom. I don't know how old she was. Maybe 13 or 14.
Okay.
She was so young. And at 4 months, she left me to my grandmother. And she went away somewhere, I don't know.
And that was that. There was no explanation as to where she went?
Right now, I think she couldn't face the stigma around her right now. But back then, I don't know what she was thinking. I don't know. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so she left me with my grandmother. And life was good at grandma's. Because we had like everything. We didn't ever lack food, the basic needs. Yeah. Everything was fine until it was time for me to go to school, and I didn't like school. Yeah. So my uncle, who is my mom's brother, decided to take me and stay with me and take me to school. By that time he was married and had 3 kids, one who is older than me. So my uncle took me in. That time they used to stay in Kitengela. So we moved into Kitengela. He took me to some school, St. Linus, to Kakauko, and everything in the city was so new to me. Like, I was not used to these big buildings and so many cars, and everyone is speaking in Swahili. I didn't know how to speak in Swahili. I only knew Kimeru. And I don't know at what point I learned Swahili, but it was a journey for me. I have an elder sister or cousin, and then me, and then all the small ones. There were 2 of them. We used to go to school together, but she was ahead of me, and then come back home later. And sometimes there was food only for her when we get back from school. And I used to feel so bad, but I couldn't do anything because it is Nairobi, like I don't know anyone. It's not like Ushago. Ushago unaweza enda tu kwa boma ya mtu and eat with them. Sasa ni kwa ploti, you don't know no one.
Sasa uncle yako kwa wapi? The brother to your mom?
He was working. Most times he was working. Yeah, but when he was around, things used to be so cool. Like tutakula tu, kama haiko, he would take us out, tukule alafu turudi.
And at this point, are you in communication with your mom in any way?
No. When I left home, I left from the hands of my grandmother. But I knew my mom. I knew who she was. Like, I knew her name is Candid. I knew her, but I didn't used to call her mom. Yeah. So we stayed there until my uncle, my dad, got a transfer. He's a lecturer, and now he got a transfer to go to Masinde Muliro University. So we had to move to Kakamega. We moved to Kakamega, and he took us to Kakamega Primary, my sister and I. And these small ones hadn't started school yet. So we just started schooling. I can't complain because we had everything. We used to have food, like my uncle used to provide everything.
At what point did life change for the worse?
For the worse? Yeah, until 2007. That's now when we came to Maua during the post-election violence time. Yeah, we came to Maua. I think that's when it was so bad.
What happened?
She used to beat me. She used to beat me all along. But no, this time it was so bad. Like, back in Kakamega, she used to deny me food sometimes. Like when you've made meat, when the food is made, she used to deny me. Hata ugali sometimes. So unapata, unaona ile ukoko ya ugali? Yeah, I used to eat that. Like, hata si ile unapewa, I used to steal it and niweka huku kwa mdomo. So tukienda kulala, hebu kuja nikuangalie mdomo, ni nini imefura? Yeah, and then now I will be beaten because I'm stealing, and stealing is not a good thing. But there's no way I could be doing that if maybe nilikuwa nashiba. Yeah. And then like, I used to do things like that she will not let like my sister do, considering we had a house help, because I remember at times my elder sister was sick and she would puke and I would be asked to wash it, and I'm doing this with bare hands, and I just used to do it anyway.
It was just a lot.
Yeah, it was not good. Also, I used to eat at the compost sometimes because the food in the house, I'm not getting enough food in the house, so I used to eat at the compost. Also, some neighbors walikuwa wananiona nikienda kukula hapo kwa compost, so wananipitilishia chakula kwa dirisha.
Ukijulikana sasa.
Nikijulikana sasa nitachapwa. And also them labda watakeleleshwa. So they stopped eventually because there's no tendo ukipea watoto watu chakula kwa ploti. It's never always good. And then funny, she would also realize I'm eating from the compost and she would ask me, kwa nini, like, that's bad. Yeah, don't do that, that's bad. But I will also not get food in the house. At some time nilikuwa na faint tukiwa shule. Yeah, sometimes it was genuine, other times I used to pretend I fainted. Ndio niende nipewe maziwa staff room, maziwa na mkate. So we were taken to St. Paul's Primary School in Maua. I and the small kids walikuwa tu wadogo, binasari sina B. I think it's like baby class. We started schooling, so I would wake up in the morning, prepare myself, prepare them. Tunakunywa breakfast na washika mkono hivi tunaenda shule. Tukiingia juu the lower classes zilikuwa karibu na gate na wacha, and then I head to my class. So tukitoka shule, hakika za home ilikuwa mob. Like, umetoka tu shule, you have to take care of these small ones. You have to do your homework. At times you have to cook. Like, yeah, you're cooking, but umeambiwa vile utapika. Hii kifanye hivi sasa, kitunguu kiko brown, uweke nyanya. Alafu weke mboga. There's a day everyone went to sleep and I was left cooking. Na nikalala hapo kwa floor. Like, I just left there because I think I was sleepy. And then the food that I was cooking, ika overcook, kukaanza kuungua, I think. So she came, she found me. Alikuja tu akapata nimelala hapo na chakula inaungua. Kanipiga vita ingine kali na ni usiku, like ni usiku, I'm supposed to be sleeping. And then my mom and my grandmother, they used to come to visit us. Now that we're in Maua, we are near home. So walikuwa nakuja na snacks, mikate, a little shopping. Hizo snacks like hazikuwa zinanifikia.
Nani mama amebai?
Yeah. And now I was not allowed to be like close to them. Like, they've come to visit us here, but ni ile tu, hai sasa uko vizuri? Niko vizuri. And then mimi narudi kama nikuosha vyombo, wanabaki wakiongea. I was not allowed like to be left alone. Maybe with them and tell them what's going on.
Is your auntie telling you reasons why this was not allowed?
Yeah, because they're bad people. Yeah, I should not relate myself to them because they're bad people. My grandmother and my mom, generally they're bad people. Yeah, and they're witches, and they're going to bewitch me.
That's what you were told?
Yeah.
Did you believe it?
Yeah, I believe them. It went that way for a very long time. sometime they came to visit us with maize, like green maize, and I don't remember what I had done. And then my mom, my auntie, she told the small ones to beat me. Like she just told them, mchapeni na hiyo mahindi, and they did it. They are just kids. I don't blame them. They're just kids. But you're supposed to just sit there and be beaten and not do nothing because
she's there and she's watching.
Na usipige mtoto. Hata huwezi piga mtoto. So utakaa tu upigwe. Wakichoka watawacha.
How did this make you feel? Because then here you are, unafeel ni kama uko peke yako in a family where you expected these people to be for you, but now they are against you and there's no one to protect you ama akutete. How was this experience affecting you?
I thought it was normal. I thought that's what people who don't live with their mothers actually go through. Yeah, I thought it was completely normal. Yeah.
At any point, did you ever wish you were never left alone with your grandma? That your mom never left you alone?
Yeah, a lot of times, because now you're in school, everyone is talking about their mom. Mama alinifanyia, daddy brought me this, and you just envy them. But you can't tell them. You can't even talk about your mom. Your dad, you don't know even your dad, so you can't talk anything about your family. You just play along, pretend along, and everything moves on. Yeah.
What was your worst experience living with these people? One that maybe will forever be engraved in your mind, that looking back you're like, that shouldn't have happened. I was only a child.
She used to beat me with a mwiko in the head. So, and then my head would swell, like big bumps. So I had to wear a Marvin. I used to wear a Marvin. And it was so bad. At some point she beat me until I passed out. And my uncle took me to hospital, to my Methodist. I don't know what they said because I don't even remember anything. I was awake for some time and they were asking me, what do you remember last? And I don't remember anything else from then. Yeah, and then that's when now I think my uncle decided, now this is enough. But he didn't know. My uncle didn't know everything that used to go on. He didn't know. I think he loved me. I think so, but he didn't know. There's no way he could have let this happen. Like, even if it's discipline, he had a way of disciplining us. Yeah,
that
but
was loving.
He's tough, not as loving, but there's a way to discipline someone. You don't have to be like so extra.
Okay. There's a point where you mentioned in our conversations before this that at some point you found yourself eating raw meat before it was cooked. What was that?
It was back in Kakamega. I used to be denied meat. I don't know why, but I used to be denied meat. It was like such a big deal. And so I decided maybe if they don't want me to eat meat, I can be eating it before it's cooked. So no one will notice like meat is missing, it's less than the portion that was bought. So I started stealing the raw meat. Yeah. And then when...
Just eating like that?
Yeah, just eat it and it was okay.
You couldn't gag?
No, it was okay because I knew this is the only shot I have. I have to eat it raw because I won't get it when it's cooked. Parents always find out. So she realized I was eating raw meat. Yeah. And she told me that if you continue eating raw meat, you'll get sick. Utendo udungwe sindano, like 60.
Just to scare you.
Yeah. And so I was afraid. She threatened me, so I was afraid. I didn't even like hospitals. And now I'm going to get sick for a very long time because of eating raw animal products. So she decided now to start counting the pieces. So that now I stop eating the raw meat. She started now counting. Yeah, like we'll buy meat, chop into pieces, and count the pieces. That was so bad.
Oh,
yeah, it was so bad. You know, there are those times when baby's food is a little better, ile chakula ya mtoto. Yeah. And there's this day we were going to church and she stopped us on the road and she said, kuna mtu amekula chakula ya mtoto.
Ulikuwa umekula?
Sikuwa nimekula hiyo chakula.
But kitu kifanyika tu ni wewe.
Yeah, I was always taking the blames for everything that ever happened in that house. Kitu ikienda missing, Tessy Kawira kikombe na hivi. Like, where is this thing? I didn't even know.
Walikuwa wanakuita Tessy?
Chokora. Oh my God. Nilikuwa naitwa Chokora and I accepted it as my name. Nilikuwa naitwa Chokora and I will come running nisikize kile unasema. Chokora, do this, I do that. And she decided to smell my mouth and decided ni wewe umekula chakula ya mtoto.
And so you get punished for it.
I don't think I was beaten that day because we were going to church, so she couldn't beat me on the road. But alitusema aki na akanusa mdomo yangu na akadecide mimi ndio nimekula food. Mimi sikuwa nimekula hiyo food. For real sikuwa nimekula hiyo food. So hata tukiwa Maua, like vitu zikipotea unaulizwa akimisplace pesa, like umekaa hivi tu unakuja unaambiwa wekelea hapa hiyo pesa. Hata ujui ni how much, like you don't know. Sasa hata utachukua pesa upeleke wapi? Hakuna kitu unaweza nunua ungeneo kwa hiyo nyumba kama haijakuwa notice, not even a record, like hakuna kitu, like always itakuwa noticed. And she beat me and later on atapata pesa yake. So there's this one day I found 2,000 shillings. Nikaenda kwa bookshop. Kwanza tu mtu wa bookshop alikuwa anaogopa kuniuzia juu umetoa wapi pesa. So I just went and told him I want storybooks. And I bought so many storybooks. I can't remember how many they were, but I bought so many storybooks and na bano, zile za kucheza bano. Na hizo nikapelekea klasi yetu, nikapea kila mtu bano. Ilikuwa time ya tuition during the holidays. Nikaenda home. I think that's now when she beat me so bad. So hizo storybooks nilienda nazo home. Na nikazileta and umetoa wapi pesa, and I was beaten so bad. Hadi saa hii kuna place hapa inakuanga so sensitive, like hata nikienda salon that place is so sensitive. Tukaenda hosi. Now my dad decided no. Hii maybe imezidi lama imemzidi yeye. Nikaenda home kwa shosh. Nikapelekwa huko, and then when the schools were opened, my uncle took me to boarding. Niliboard, so I boarded nikiwa class 3. Boarding ilikuwa inaanza class 5. So the scholars wakienda home, nilikuwa tunaenda kukaa na class 5 South. And my mom was allowed by the sisters kukuwa anakuja on Saturdays kunifulia nguo. So tu nikasoma mpaka class 8. Nikamaliza, I got 352.
Even that, wow.
Yeah. Nikamaliza, nikarudi back home. So unajua sasa nakaa kwa shosho. Si nilitokanga kwao. So nakaa kwa shosho. Nikifunga shule naenda kwa shosho. But also my uncle was keeping check on me because he didn't want like niharibiki huko ushago. So huko sasa hii break sasa ya kwenda form 1 sasa is when now they asked me, but then you can just come back. Na sasa wametoka town, sasa wanishi ushago like umeshajenga. And they asked me I can just like kukuja tu niendelee kuishi na wao. And I thought that since nitakuanga shule most of the time, why not? Like ni sawa tu, mimi niliona ni sawa. And I decided to come back. Na tukaendelea, nikaenda shule, kuna rudi home. Every day you're reminded that you're not a member of that family. Umekaa hivi tu watu wanaanza tu kuongea. Na unajua huku tokanga tu chini, ama ukifanya makosa, you're reminded that do you know you have a mom and a dad? And that I'm not your mom, I'm not your dad. Like, do you know you have parents? Unajua utaenda uwatafute wakupeleke shule. Like, ukifanya kitu kidogo hivi, you just threaten, like, you just go to your parents. kila mtu akona wazazi. Usifikiriange hauna wazazi. Now you're mature enough to understand that we're not your biological parents. Nikasoma form 1, nikirudi tu home, but ile tu kifanya makosa unakumbushwa tu. It's like you're being reminded every day, you don't belong here, you don't belong here. But no, since you have nowhere to go, I just stay. Actually, I couldn't have any option. Nitatoka niende wapi? This guy, I've known him as my dad for like forever.
Yeah.
So in form 3, when now I was about to join form 3, I was taken to a day school near home. I was taken to a day school, but nile I was called into a meeting, tukakaa tuko meza, tukaongea finances, and then I was given options, nilichoose, nikapelekwa huko. Haikuwa mbaya. Until at some point nilifanya makosa. Nilitoroka home. Nilidecide kutoroka home. Nikifikiria watanitafuta or something, because my elder sister had done that once, and alitafutwa, akapatikana, akapelekwa hosi. So I decided also I can try this. It didn't go that well. It didn't go that well, because after that nilikuja nikapata instructions have been given that I'm not allowed to enter that gate.
Ulikuwa 16 years at that point?
Yeah, that time I was 16. I was not allowed to enter that gate. Nikatuma pastor, chairlady wa kanisa. His dad's brother is like his dad, and nothing happened, and it was it. And it's in the middle of an academic year. Ilikuwa ni term 2, I think tukienda term 3 in 2016. So I went to my grandmother and now I started staying with her. But sasa hata hawanipati nguo zangu, like everything that I have is there. If there's anything that I own, it's there in the house. Like simunitolee tungu ama basi uniform na vitabu nijipange vile nitarudi shule. Juseo like ni kama tu, I think it was meant to happen like that either way, because I had constant meeting of being reminded that
this is not your home.
Yeah, that's not my home. So eventually I managed to get to ask my aunt now to give me my clothes, like a few clothes, and I told her that now nenda kutafuta babangu anirudishe shule, niko napenda shule. And she told me, now this guy has not brought himself up for 16 years. Sasa unaenda kumtafuta akufanyie nini? Huyu mtu hajajileta nyumbani. I talked to my aunties, some of them, and some of my friends, and all of them told me, no, Tessy, just make up with your uncle. Yeah, you're not doing this. Enda kile umemfanyia, just apologize and make things work. Anyway, I didn't listen to them because I had already made up my mind. So I made some calls. Someone gave me, a friend gave me his phone number, not my dad's phone number, like my biological dad's phone number. And I called him. So this guy, I don't even know him. I knew his name because people used to, watu walikuwa nichokoza. So, hey, sidio msichana wa fulani. But I didn't know him. Sikuwa nimewahi muona sura. So I called him and, hello, this is Fulani, and you're my dad. I'd like to see you. And he's like, oh, I've been looking for you. So you've been waiting for this moment for forever. And he directed me to where he was. I went. Was so happy. He was happy. We took selfies, and he told me, no, I asked him, like, why didn't you want to live with me, and I'm your daughter? Do you even ever think of me? I was so bitter. But he told me, like, when I was still a small kid, he wanted to take me and stay with me. But now my uncle, they say that they're not letting their kid go to poverty. Now me. Yeah, they won't let him stay with me. He told me, I don't know if he lied, but that's what he told me. Yeah, and then he promised to take me back to school. I think he was lying. Yeah, he was lying. I believed him anyway. He gave me some cash and I went back to my grandmother and I told her I met my dad. And she was mad about it, like, why did you do it? You know, that's so wrong. Anyway, I stayed home and during that time, yeah, I got pregnant.
How did that happen? Did you meet somebody in the village?
Yeah, I think after I was kicked out from my foster family, I needed to belong somewhere. I needed someone to tell me that life is worth living, because I felt like my life is over. I'm no longer going to school. Now I started living the life of those people we used to laugh at when we were going to school, like wale wendangi shule. So I felt like my life was over, and this was the only person who made me feel like yeah, you can still live it though. I went to shule lakini dunia ijaisha.
Alikuwa friend yako?
Yeah, he was my friend, and then he used to advise me. You tell me, those people you are working with, those watakufunza bangi. So I thought he was advising me. Yeah, he used to give me really good advices. One thing led to another, and I got pregnant.
At 16?
But I didn't tell anyone I was pregnant. Actually, I went to school in January. Nilikaa tu home and Jani kafika nikaenda shule. So when I went back to school, to this now day school, unajua unarudi shule, vitu zako like zimekuwa misused, your books, your notebook, like everything is not in order. That January, he gave me, my dad now. See, he promised to take me back to school, and he actually did. It wasn't something so big because I was already enrolled in the school, so it's just paying school fees and continuing to pay the school fees. I went back to school. I knew I was pregnant. But I didn't tell anyone. And I decided, yeah, I can do this. I can still go to school. He gave me the school fees he gave me the fees to go and pay and some pocket money, but I didn't pay the school fees.
What did you do?
I knew I was pregnant and that I would drop out anytime. And I thought I would use that money. I thought I was investing. So I lent people. No, I thought I was investing. Like, I lend you some money and then you'll give it back with some interest. Yeah. No, I thought like I'm saving in a save. Like, nikikuwa down, tamuitisha ile pesa yangu. You see? And I went back to school and teachers figured out I was pregnant. I don't know who told them, but they figured out because I used to be called for counseling every time, literature guidance and counseling, and I didn't like it. Mungu ataka tu nisome mimi nimalize history ishe. Anyway, I couldn't continue school, so I dropped out in 2016.
You were in form?
I was in form 3, but when I went back, I went back to form 2 because set books have changed. It's been a long time sijakuwa shule, so I went back to form 2.
Did you ever disclose the pregnancy to your baby daddy?
Yes.
What did he say?
Nothing. He didn't say anything. Now I think that it's because he was still in school, he was still in college. Maybe he didn't know what to do or who to tell, how to handle it. I think so. But he didn't tell me anything, and I didn't tell him. I didn't bother anyway because I didn't know how to abort. I didn't know how. So I just decided, let me just keep quiet. Yeah. Now whatever life brings, I'll take it. So I dropped out of school and went to stay with my grandmother. Back to my grandmother. She's like my place of solace. Like when things go wrong, I always go back home. And my home is my grandmother's place. I went to stay with her, but I didn't tell her. So she used to ask me, why are you not in school? I lie. Like those teachers don't like me. But I stayed. I told some friend, she's a bit elder. I told her that I was pregnant, and she promised me that she would take me to someone. She knows someone who does abortions for cheap prices. I didn't have the money. She told me it was 3,000, but I didn't even have that 3,000. She promised to raise the 3,000 for me and take me there. This lady was also my mom's friend, like my biological mom's friend. So she told her, hey, by the way, Tessy is pregnant. Mom came home to my grandmother's home. Kanipata hapo. She asked, she knew I was pregnant. That lady told her, I wanted it to be a secret, but she told her. Anyway, so mom asked me to go stay with her for some time, for 1 week, and then I would come back. Where mom stays and my grandmother's place, it's like a very long distance. So I went stayed with her, and I never came back. Like nilikaa huko hadi nikazalia huko, and it was not so good also with mom. Unajua sasa mnakaa tu, and it was not easy for her also because she didn't plan it. Alikuwa ameamua nakaa 1 week and then I go back, and then I didn't go back. I didn't want to. No, it was a day school, and then some of the teachers are from around the village. Your aunties, everyone's seeing you the big time. I didn't want it, so I decided, no, let me just stay there until I give birth to my baby, and then maybe I can go back. No, my dad, after he had taken me back to school, and then I didn't pay the school fees and the pregnancy stuff, you know, he's the one who was called to be told to take me for testing. He was mad at me. So I didn't talk to him also. He was mad at me, so mad. Like, how can you do this? No, this is so gross. So I went to stay with my mom. And my mom, life was not easy for her because she was also struggling. She's a hairdresser, and sometimes there are no jobs. And then it's in up country. So life is also not like so good there.
And how was your relationship with her?
With my mom?
Yeah, because of course you have to remember how life has been for you when you grew up in such hardship, yet she wasn't there. Did you try and find out what happened to try and mend that relationship with her?
What was paining me the most is that, okay, I've spent like 16 years of my life without you, and now that you're here, I don't see any difference. We're just like strangers who've met each other and decided to be kind for 1 day. But it wasn't like, we're not so close and we couldn't talk stuff. Yeah, but I still stayed at her place because I didn't have anywhere else to go. At that time, we used to stay in a rental for 1,400 rent. Side ya mbele ni salon, side ya nyuma ndio tunakaa sisi wote, me and my 2 small brothers. I have 2 small brothers from my mom. So we stayed with mom, and at some point she was fed up. She thought I was stressed. I wasn't stressed, but I used to stay up all night, like just awake and doing nothing, and I was okay. I thought I was okay, but she used to think that something is stressing me up. I know she couldn't take it anymore, so she left. Alibeba, nilikuja nikapata kumehamwa. Watungu wangu tumebaki hapo kwa kamba. I just came, and the house ilikuwa nyumba ya mbao, and no padlock, like nyumba tu imefunguliwa, and then your stuff is in there. And then she had not even consulted me, like nataka kwenda kwa shamba sasa, maisha ya town imeniweza. She didn't tell me. Alikuja tu akabeba vitu zake akaenda kwa shamba. Shamba si mbali na ako ka town. But she could have told me. No, I had so much anger. I decided if she's just left, like I won't follow her. I'll just stay. So I can't do anything, build for myself.
Mtoto wako wapi wakati huo?
I am so pregnant. I am so big. Yeah, it's that time I was pregnant. She left. Not that now amebeba bed, amebeba tu vyombo, like there's nothing. So what I used to do, how mama wa ploti, unajua kwa watu wanachuna miraa. So watu walikuwa niacha watoto wao na food, like unacha mtoto wako na chakula yake na yangu. So that's how I managed like every day. And then one day the lady told me, our neighbor lady, she used to leave her kids with me. She told me, na wewe sasa vile unakaa hapa, si tuende kwa miraa. Yeah, and I went kuchuna miraa. Mimi sijui kuchuna miraa. Like I come from where there is Mira, but you see my dad, my uncle was so strict, and then he's a diplomat. So Mira stuff, you don't know, you have no knowledge about. We are not even allowed to sell Mira at home. So this lady told me, twende tukachune Mira. At least I'll get some money, something for myself. Badala tu nikaange nikipewa kila kitu. Nilikuwa nakaa na watoto, and then labda utanibuy slippers, ama utanipa your maternity dress don't you used to wear, or food. I decided to go to pick Mira. No, it was so rough, like the way those pickers are transported. Yani mnajazanishwa tu. And I'm so pregnant, I'm so big. Alafu tunafika kwa shamba ya Mira, and she asks me, unajua kuchuna Mira? Mimi najua. Hebu nionyeshe. I start picking. Si hivyo uko wanachunanga hivi. It's not like you picking one because they are after the money. And I couldn't. Okay, I did, but it was so little. Ni kama tu nilikuwa naenda joyriding. So they used to help me. Manager huko wananisaidia kuchuna Mira. And then tunaenda hivi tunafika kwa shamba, and I start crying kwa sababu sioni Mira. Alafu tunatoka beba Mira zinatosha na hivi. Oh my God.
Tell me about the point where your child came.
My baby. You see, now this time his dad is in school. Mama ameniacha town.
You are alone.
Yeah, I'm alone generally. So I decided to pin it on someone. Okay, like I decided to go to some people's place and stay there stuck. Because you guys are not going to, even if you beat me, you won't kill me. Like, I didn't have nothing to do. I just went to some home.
Random too?
It was not random. That girl was my friend. We used to dance together sometimes back. Yeah, so I just went to their place, and ni ile boma uwezi ingia, like, so strict, and then kuna fununu za uchawi huko. You just can't go there. But I went anyway. Because now my baby is almost due. Yeah. And these people wako na pesa. Ni wachawi, wachana uchawi. They have money. They're going to take care of me. If I go and stay there and they kick me out, the people around them will talk bad about them. Na hawataki hiyo, hawataki kuharibu jina wamejenga for so long. Yeah. So I went and stayed there until I gave birth. Like nenda tu nikakatalia huko. It was not as easy as I'm saying it. Yeah, but that's what I did. Sasa nikienda huko, I used to be like, it's like now I'm married.
Did you pin that pregnancy on somebody?
Yeah.
Who did you say was the responsible for this?
No, I just went to their home. This girl used to be my friend.
And so they thought it's him?
Yeah, unajua uko ushago, ukitembea na mtu siku moja huyo ni wako, whether you've done nothing or not. Yeah. So he couldn't deny that much, but he knew and he knows. Yeah. I think he also felt pity for me because that life was miserable, really miserable.
From there, at what point did you lose the custody of your child, and what happened?
Even when I was at that home now, the home that I went, I told him. So even when I gave birth, he came there to see me. And when he left, mother alikuwa, na huyo kijana nimeona akifanana mtoto. We'll just make jokes about it, and I stayed there for like 4 months. And I was telling them I want to go back to school. And they're like, it's okay, you'll just go back to your people and they'll take you to school. And I'm doing all the chores for them. Nafanya kazi zote. And then they won't even take me to school. I decided to go to my mom. I talked to her. I apologized. And then mama ni mama too. When my mom left me in town and I was due, I didn't even tell her. I didn't use to talk because I felt like angeniambia tu ametoka. But when I went to get my baby at the hospital, the next day when I woke up, she was there. Yeah, she had brought me food and baby stuff. So I went to talk to her and told her that I wanted to go back to school, but I didn't know how. So some of my friends had come, had brought me some money, some clothes for the baby. So that money nilitumia kushona uniform. Yeah. A certain school ilikuwa around here place. There were like 2 schools, but I preferred one. It was better in performance. It was a little bit exposed. Nikashona uniform, just the skirt and the blouse. Ya hiyo shule. And then I wrote a letter, like a handwritten letter, to the principal of that school. He told me it's okay, you can come to school. Yeah. Wow. I wasn't at this point of childhood with my mom. You see, I moved from those people because I felt like they don't want to support my education, and I'm not like a wife. I don't want this. I want to go back to school. I have something big ahead. So I went back to my mom. So I used to leave the baby with my mom, go to school, come back. At first I used to wake up, go to my mom, leave with the baby, go to school, and then nikuje nichukue mtoto nikirudi. But hizi kazi zote nawafanyia, hata mtoto hawakai na yeye. Mtoto tunapeleka kwa mom. Nika decide why not stay with my mom. And mom was okay with it, so nikaenda kukaa na mom. I started going to school, and then mom was busy. Sometimes angeongea vibaya. Sometimes you could be kicked out of the house usiku with the baby. Ama hata ni katikati ya exams, you miss exams. Ama ni like music festivals, all these science stuff. And maybe you had something so good. Then hiyo siku umeamsha saa 9. Unajua kesho mimi sitakaa na mtoi. Niko na customer fulani naenda kushuka nywele. Unaona sasa inabidi ukae home. Now they just start calling, why are you not in school? They were so much concerned. I liked them so much because they were willing to pay a babysitter for me. But I didn't feel like my baby could ever be like safe with someone else except me or my mom. So there's a time I stayed home with the baby. Like my mom was busy. Alikuwa amepata customers back to back. And now my baby daddy now had already told his mom, I don't know which means he used, but his mom knew that I was pregnant with his baby and I had delivered, and she was keeping up with how we were doing. So there's a time I stayed home for so long without going to school, and she had my baby dad's mom, and it's someone who supports education so much. So she just reached out and told me the baby should not be the reason you're not going to school. Well, leta mtoto uende shule. When you're done with school, when you feel you're okay, you can come get the baby. Yeah. So that's how my baby stays at their place. But he's fine.
And you get to see him more.
Yeah. Like anytime I want to, it's not like, there's no problem.
Wow, that's
yeah.
Nice.
He's
For
fine.
someone to take up that responsibility, I think it's commendable.
Yeah, it is.
Why did you choose to come here and share this story with us? You know, to revisit all those painful pasts and some of the things that you have not shared with anyone before. Why did you choose to do this right now?
I felt like I needed my auntie to know that she didn't treat me so well at all. Like what she did was wrong. I feel like telling her a lot of times, but I can't just face her in the face and tell her, and or maybe ask her why, but why, you see? And then, yeah, I needed her to know that it was not okay at all. And also for my uncle, I want to apologize to him for the mistakes that I did, and also appreciate him. Like, he was so good, and a lot of things he didn't know used to happen in his house. Yeah, bad things.
First time you're talking about it, you never faced them?
No.
Do you ever meet at family gatherings maybe?
No, we don't have those things at home where we meet family. No, just random, maybe random. I can be at my grandma's, and then maybe my uncle comes when he's coming to check on his mother. Yeah.
Looking back, what are some of the regrets you've had growing up? What do you wish you did differently?
I did everything, I think, as I was told to do.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't think there's one mistake that I did, running away from home, thinking that they are going to care. That one I regret. Yeah, but also I've moved past it. Yes.
Where you are right now in life, Are you okay financially, mentally? Have you healed? Have you forgiven them? Where do you work? What do you do for a living?
Okay, right now, I think I'm good. The fact that I stay alone, like I'm by myself. I'm not at the point where I want to be, but I'm trying. Like I'm working myself every day to make sure that my baby gets a better future and gets time to spend with me. I've forgiven them, but I also go back home, talk with them. And also I envy people, like people are my friends, some of them are in their 30s and their parents just check on them. And I just envy them because I have no one. Like right now, if you ask anyone from where I come from, they don't even know where I am. Yeah, like I'm on my own, I'm by myself. I think I'm good. But sometimes I have mental breakdowns.
Can you imagine?
Yeah. And you have no one you can tell because you've not had supportive parents. Maybe the only person I can tell about my problems is my grandmother, and she can't help that much. She'll just pray for me. She just tell me, usijali, Mungu wako. At least it keeps me moving. She's the only one who keeps tabs with me. But I'm okay.
I don't believe you, that. I feel that you have not healed yet because these things are showing through your eyes. I can tell that there's still some pain attached to some of these experiences you've chosen to share with us today. Is that true?
Yes. But I also feel like I've let out a very heavy load.
When speaking about it?
Yeah. Like right now, I feel like
Wow.
I've let out a very heavy load off my chest, off my shoulders. Yeah, at least I feel like I'm at peace. Yeah.
I'm glad it helped because then at least the problem shared is half solved.
Half solved, yes.
But I will organize for you some counseling sessions to help you come to terms with some of the things that you went through, for you to understand that it wasn't your fault. You were only a child. And the decisions you made at that point were only limited to whatever you knew was okay at that point. So don't blame yourself. And it's true that life is not easy for everyone, but you didn't deserve some of these things that happened to you. And we commend you for coming out and talking about these things so bravely, because it takes a lot of courage. Right?
Yeah.
What is the future like for you? How would you like to see yourself in the next maybe 3 years?
The next 3 years. Oh my God. I would love to maybe have a beautiful home. Yeah, with my baby and probably other babies. Like if all goes well with me, maybe I could start a charity organization for teen moms. Yeah.
That's really commendable, the fact that you're choosing to use your experiences to help other people to not go through the same experiences you did. Thank you, Tessy Kawira, for sharing your story with us. Unless you have anything that we have forgotten to mention, this is the chance.
I would like my auntie, I would like her to know that all the time she beat me, some of them, like 90% of them, I used to be innocent. Like I didn't used to take your money. And I used to carry all the blame for the house, but it's not everything that I actually did. Like 90% of everything you used to beat me about. It was like now your kids are grown up, so like they can just tell you, Mom, that money, we're the ones who took it, because I didn't. It used to hurt me a lot because taking the blame for everyone, carrying the blame for everyone, it used to be so bad. And also when you used to tell me like I should wait for everyone else to eat washibe so that I can eat, it used to be so bad. And you don't have to do that to someone else. Like if you have nothing nice to say to someone, just be kind. Yeah. But I've forgiven you. I just wanted you to know I didn't do all those things.
You're beautiful, you're young, you have your whole future ahead of you. I truly understand your pain. I understand someone punishing you for something you truly didn't do. It's easier if you did something and,
Yeah.
and you know you're being punished rightly for something you did. But something you didn't do, it hits differently. And so I understand you. And I'm so sorry that you went through this. And thank you for trusting us with your story. We do hope that your life takes a turn for the best and you don't dwell on that past anymore.
Yeah.
I promise to get you a counselor to walk with you this journey because you have a very bright future ahead of you. Do you promise to change and be happy?
Yeah.
Okay. I wish you the very best.
Thank you so much.
If anyone is watching your story right now and they want to support you in any way, do you mind sharing your phone number?
No, I don't mind.
Okay, good. You can look at the camera again and tell them.
My phone number is 0757 110 257.
And the name is?
Tessy. I'm Tessy Kawira. Kobe is my daddy uncle, but I love him so much. He's my hero. He doesn't know that.
But now he will.
But now he will.
Well, Tuko family, this has been a difficult story to tell because as you can see, Tessy is still emotional, you know, because of the experiences she has had to go through being a child and expecting people to protect her, but she didn't get that. And so she's here to at least lift off that weight from her heart and try to heal. And so even as you call her to support her and encourage her and pray with her and to walk this journey with her, please, please be kind to her. And as always, thank you so much for staying with us till the end of the show. My name is Yvonne Kawira, and until next time, keep it Tuko.